Dr. Shaner is also a management consultant to American and Japanese companies. He joins us from the newsroom. Dr. Shaner, thanks for being here. The U.S. seems to be getting tougher with Japan. Now, we heard Lee Iacocca say today, we don't have to apologize to anybody. We're not here to accept favors from Japan. Is the talk tougher? It seems to be. What do you make of it all?
The talk is definitely tougher. It's very interesting. As you know, we've been monitoring the situation today by following all the news reports, as well as looking at the Japanese newspapers and even consulting some sources close to Ambassador Armacost.
Is live this noon to offer his opinions on the promises made by Japan. He's an expert on Japanese affairs. Welcome to the Zoom show.
Thank you.
What do you think of the promises?
I think the promises are pretty much what we had expected.
So joining me right now is Dr. David Shaner. He is quite the expert on Japan. In fact, he consults to American businesses about doing business in Japan.
A production of the South Carolina Educational Television Network.
The issue, USA and Japan bashing. Tonight on Open Line, a look at U.S.-Japanese relations, trading in crisis. Well, we're back with Dr. David Shaner to look, I guess, at the issue of Japan bashing and all that's going on between.
CNN continues a special report. The funeral of Japan's Emperor Hirohito. In Tokyo, Mary Alice Williams and Bernard Shaw.
Welcome. It is a few moments after 10 a.m. on this very cold and rainy Friday in Tokyo.
Funeral ceremonies for Emperor Hirohito, who is now called Showa. The name given his 62-year-long reign have been underway for about 2.5 hours.
Joining us now to discuss the changing role of Japan's imperial family, David Shaner, an associate professor of philosophy at Furman University and a consultant to international industries specializing in U.S.-Japanese relations. He was also the recipient of the Crown Prince Akihito Scholarship, and just last summer was granted an audience with now Emperor Akihito. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Rob.
Your thoughts on the new emperor?
He is an extremely genteel man, very well-rounded. He is extremely articulate, engaging, one who has made a sincere effort to be extremely friendly to those outside Japan. I think his personal interpretation of the role of the institution of the imperial family is one that he wants to continue to change, in the sense that I suppose he wants to see it as an evolving institution, one not quite as rigid as it has been in the past.
Does he have the feeling that he wants to be more powerful in a sense, or have more of a say in the way his country is operated?
Not so much politically. He does have interests in politics, but actually I think he may have gotten this from his father. Early, his father broke with tradition by being the first to travel abroad and was very impressed by the monarchy as it frequently is in the institutions of Europe. Basically, in Japan, the institution of the monarchy has been so revered that people love almost out of fear, that sort of recognition. But when his father first traveled to Europe and was able to see how the monarchy of Europe were able to conduct themselves in and around with the people, their subjects as it were, then this greatly impressed him. And so Akihito in particular, as the new emperor, I think will want to make the institution one that is engaged with the people and serves the people. Perhaps social needs, gives a direction to the culture, but not so much interfere with politics.
How much of a say, though, with Japan's relations, let's say, with the West, with the United States particularly, Japan's relations with the third world countries and so forth, does he have any role here, or do we leave this up to the Prime Minister?
No, that is left up to the Prime Minister. I think we're talking about something perhaps much less significant than that. Heretofore, the role of the imperial family has been so isolated that they personally have almost felt being isolated from the people. But as a result of their efforts to change the reputation of Japan since World War II, they have attempted to purposefully make the institution of the imperial family one that actually contributes to the growth and the development of the people. For example, the government quite methodically arranged to change the reputation of Japan around the world, first by hosting the Olympics in Tokyo in 1964, then the Expo in Osaka in 1970, the Winter Olympics in 1972, and then the Economic Summit. Now, the fact that all this attention is being given to Japan at a time when the occasion is not something important by Western standards, Olympics, economic summit, etc., but this is the changing of their own calendar. This is an epic time in their cultural history. And so for them to show off not only Japan as a superpower, but also to show and introduce to the world their new emperor is vitally important.
Okay, the people of Japan, they realize, they understand the importance of the Prime Minister in their dealings with the rest of the world. How do they really feel about the emperor?
It's extremely mixed. On one hand, you'll find video rentals going up because people are kind of poo-pooing the institution of the imperial family, taking off for 3-day weekends, saying it's a holiday, let's get out of Tokyo and see what happens. Others, however, feel much more humbled by the occasion. And I suppose the real symbolic importance of the imperial family, many times I introduce it to students and business people like this. The best way to understand Japan initially is to remember it is a series of islands. As a result, their whole cultural history has been one of importing ideas from the outside. Confucianism is an indigenous Chinese tradition. Buddhism was introduced rather late and introduced them for the first time to writing. As a result of this, people say, what is the indigenous thing important to the Japanese people? It is governed by the imperial family. That, the Shinto tradition, of which traditionally the emperor was the high priest, is that one thing that binds the Japanese people together. So whether it's conscious or not, the Shinto tradition is one that nevertheless binds the people together.
That's all fascinating. Thank you, David Shaner, for enlightening us.
Thank you very much.
You
Pleasure.
bet.